I'm Lauren Lee, Go Realtors Board of Director and your 2021 Government Affairs and RPAC Chair. As realtors, we are members of the only advocacy group in the country that fights exclusively for home ownership, real estate investment, strong communities, and the free enterprise system. The Realtor Party, which is not affiliated with any side on the left or the right, is a powerful alliance of realtors and realtor associations working to advance public policies and candidates that build strong communities, protect property interests, and promote a vibrant business environment. This is a collaborative effort between our local association, the Kentucky Realtors, and the National Association of Realtors. It is important for us to maintain a working relationship with our local legislators on a local, state, and federal level. Today, we are going to hear from the state legislators who represent with the 5 counties serviced by the Go Realtors. We'll also discuss a few pieces of proposed legislation which we support. Go Realtors CEO Jacqueline Graves met virtually with each legislator this week. Let's take a look at their conversations related to these important issues.
Well, good morning. I'm Steve Meredith. I'm State Senator for the 5th District, which includes Meade, Breckenridge, Grayson, and Midland Park, LaRue County. I'm just starting my second term. I was first elected in 2016, so I guess I've become a seasoned veteran at this point. And I serve on numerous committees. I am Vice Chair of Health and Welfare. I'm Vice Chair of Veterans, Military Affairs, and Public Protection. I'm Co-Chair of the Government Contract Review Committee. I am the co-chair of Medicaid Oversight Committee, and it seems like there may be a couple others there, but they all kind of run together after a while. But it's a busy session, and I appreciate the opportunity to get to serve my constituents. Before I came to the Senate in 2016, I was a hospital CEO in Grayson County, Litchfield, Kentucky. My hospital is Twin Lakes Regional Medical Center. I was in healthcare for 40 years. And one of my lifelong goals was to retire at 59 and a half, and the dear Lord blessed me that I was able to do that. And that was in 2013. But I tell people it's sort of like having a rock in your shoe. I loved retirement, but it just felt a little bit uncomfortable. Something was missing. And quite literally, it was my wife, who really doesn't know anything about politics, really doesn't know a polar bear from the president. She said, you need to run for the Senate. And I thought, well, this is interesting, but we'd heard a sermon back in 2015 about the different way God speaks to you, and sometimes it's not as direct as we would like. For the next 6 or 7 weeks, she kept saying, you need to run for this Senate. So I'm thinking, I've got this uneasiness. My wife, who doesn't know politics, is saying I need to go this direction. So maybe this was one of those moments like Moses had with God, where he says, you need to step forward. And really, my goal simply is to let people realize the American dream just like I've had. It's a pleasure to serve here. I've got a great district to work with, but certainly a lot of challenges in Kentucky. And I think that Kentucky has untapped potential, but we just all need to come together to try to make it a reality for each and every Kentuckian.
So I'd love to get your opinion on Senate Bill 11. I don't know if you have that in front of you there, but it is discussing clarifying the criminal mischief statuses application to tenants, providing landlords a better way to obtain redress when a tenant intentionally damages or destroys rental property. I know that this is passed out of committee. I don't know if you have any opinions on Senate Bill 11 that you would feel comfortable sharing with everyone.
Well, certainly. I think that's Senator Schickel's bill, I believe. And he happens to be my roommate here in Frankfort. But that's kind of the reason why I'm supporting that bill. It's because it's a good bill. I think respect for property has to be one of the founding principles of modern society. And I'm just alarmed the way people treat other people's property. So I think this gives us an avenue that's fair for everybody and particularly long overdue. So yes, I'm very much in support for this bill.
Great. We also have two House bills that are currently on our watch. One is House Bill 151, and that's sponsored by Representative Joseph Fisher. It's requiring county clerks to be open for reviewing and obtaining copies of recorded instruments for 40 hours a week, unless they maintain some type of portal that allows a public search for electronic copies of recorded instruments.
I most certainly would support that bill. One of the primary reasons is I've got nothing but respect for Representative Fisher. He's a great state representative. He doesn't present a lot of bills, but when he does, you know that because they're important. And government should be here to serve the people. And I think we've forgotten that lesson along the way. And I appreciate we're dealing with a very unique situation with COVID, but nevertheless, life has to go on, business has to go on. And I think we need to be as available and convenient for our constituents as possible. So that to me is a common sense measure. It's what you expect from the rest of society, and I don't know why local government should be any different.
Great. And we have one more, and it is sponsored by Representative Jim Gooch. It is House Bill 207. I believe that's going to be heard potentially on Thursday. It says it would prohibit a local government entity from taking any legislative or executive action that has purpose or effect of impairing a consumer's ability to use a utility service of their choosing.
Well, we have a lot of challenges to individual rights right now, and I'm surprised how much we're willing to give up, either consciously or not being aware of it. So anything that reinforces a person's rights, I'm in support of, and we need more than that. The very foundation of this country is personal freedoms, and we throw a lot of obstacles in front of people that limit their freedoms. We should have choice in everything that we do, and I think this is just another common sense bill that is tragically long overdue. Prayers are always appreciated. One of the many epiphanies I've had since I came here is I didn't know how demanding this job was, and I'm blessed that I'm retired. We're supposed to be part-time legislators, but there's nothing part-time about it. And I have no idea how people who have careers and have young families do this job, and they become some of my greatest heroes. And elected officials kind of get a bad rap sometime, but I can assure you that of the 138 legislators here in Kentucky, without a doubt, each and every one of them is truly here because they love the state of Kentucky and want to make a difference in people's lives. So we have political differences, but at the end of the day, it's still trying to make Kentucky a better place. So prayers are always appreciated.
Well, I'm Suzanne Miles. I'm a state rep of the 7th District, which is all of Union, part of Henderson and part of Davis County. As far as when I was elected in a special election in 2013. So I started serving in 14. This is the second time I was elected as caucus chair. So I'm going into my third year as being caucus chair. And probably the responsibilities with that is just trying to keep everyone together, make sure they show up for group meetings, conversations, and communicating with our members is where I spend a lot of my time. We currently have 75 members on the majority caucus, so every time the numbers go up, the additional opportunities and drama contribute to that. So it gets a little bit more mouths to feed, so to speak, on our side. And it is a challenge, most definitely, on many days. The committees that I'm on, by being in leadership, we pretty well step off most of our committees that we were in the past. In the past, I was on agriculture, transportation, natural resources, and then I was chair of the budget review for general government, which included co-severance, which is near and dear to my district, especially Union County. So that's kind of how that occurred. I still serve on budget review, general government as a member, but not as chair. And then I'm a member by being in leadership, the rules committee, the committee on committees, all of the things that the leadership team is on. And then I stayed on natural resources. Of course, Representative Gooch is the chair of that committee and has been for many years. And so I enjoy working with him, and it's very helpful as far as, I know one of the bills on your list was very specific that he's carrying of not limiting of what type of energy in utilities that you could use. And it's very important that we make sure that we not narrow the opportunities and choices that people have as far as energy efficiency and things like that. They just need to make the best choices they can for whatever the area they're in. That just kind of, I guess, in a nutshell, I do live in Winsboro. The members have been up several years to visit. Always look forward to seeing a group come up. We are sorry that we can't make that work the way that we normally do, because it's a good opportunity. And I do think there's a difference it makes a big difference compared to, we are doing the best we can as far as the Zooms, the videos, the phone calls, all of that fun stuff. The emails are flooding in even more so than normal at this point in time. I am on the impeachment committee. That was something I was assigned to last year. We had articles of impeachment filed against a judge in Northern Kentucky, and then that committee has carried over to this year. We've had multiple articles of impeachment filed, and so that's where I'm spending a tremendous amount of my time, and I've been absolutely flooded with emails on that. So unfortunately, I hope that if your members are trying to get to me, the email may not be the best way. It might be best to pick up the phone right now, because the way the emails are coming in, we just can't keep up quick enough. And they're not emails, that are from the area. If that's probably my biggest frustration when we get to Frankfort, especially during session. It's just really hard to make sure that not only my constituents, but the people from our region can get to me. And it's not an issue of trying to not be obtainable. It's just an impossible situation right now of the way that things are set up. The governor, of course, is limiting access to the Capitol as far as we do have jurisdiction I would say encouragement for the facilities of what we can do on the third floor, but naturally we have to go through the first floor to get there. So I don't know, we'll see.
Ken, let's just get your opinion, see how you're feeling about House Bill 151.
The House Bill 151 is the one from Joe Fisher.
Yes.
About the county clerks. I haven't really heard much about that one lately as far as the dynamics of it. Of course, Representative Fisher's out of Northern Kentucky, and a lot of times things come up in another area, and it may be pertinent to the entire state, and it may just be pertinent to a certain area of an issue that they're going with. But I'm more than happy to look at that and see where it's going. A lot of the, I think as of yesterday, I think there were over 300, possibly close to 400 bills filed, and we are in a 30-day session. Of course, we've used up 9 days so far. And so just to kind of put it in perspective, the priority right now is going to be taking care of the budget, making sure that we get all the budgets in place and ready to go forward, since we did a one-year budget last time, because we didn't know what the pandemic was going to do. And at the time in March, we thought that we would be possibly over it in April. And then next thing we knew, we thought it would be the 4th of July. And here we are going on almost a year later that we're having to kind of regroup and figure out what's going on. So as far as the legislation going this time, it's going to be a hard sell this time for legislation to move forward, unless it directly affects something that's going on with either the pandemic or access to healthcare. Unemployment has just been such a frustrating thing for so many people to be able to get access to help in so many ways. And the schools are still not all open. I know you probably feel that with Carson a little bit of how that works, and so it definitely has been trying times. So as far as any individual legislation, I'm not extremely confident that a lot of legislation is going to go this time. might be in a short session.
How different is this? How different has this past year been as far as being a legislator goes? Because, you all typically, you have a pretty good game plan for several years. I mean, in our world, we call it like a strategic plan, but you all have your legislative priorities and things that you wish to get done, especially in your term. How different has this year been as an elected official?
Well, I mean, it's come down to the frustration of, we had Groundhog Day yesterday, and I really do feel like for the most part, we're stuck in Groundhog Day and have been for over 300 days at this point. So that's been a really frustrating situation, because at some point, to start with, it's kind of like snow. If you have 2 feet of snow and everyone has a snow day and you're kind of trapped and you don't have any other choice than to stay home and bake cookies and clean out your closets or whatever it may be. But this circumstance, we've really had to kind of regroup and think exactly what we're doing right now, to think, how can you move forward? What are the items that you need? What can you do? What can you not do? And how do you complete the process, whatever that may be, of whatever you need to take care of? So, that's been the biggest thing, of just trying to figure out your path forward. That was, quite frankly, that was a lot of the legislation that we passed the first week that we came into session. We need a plan going forward, whatever that may be, to balance the economy, to balance the safety. I understand the mindset of, if we can all just stay at home and stop the spread and everyone can absolutely, completely lock down. Well, it's not realistic to the people that are, not only the healthcare workers, but the people that work in the grocery stores that are stocking the shelves, the truck drivers, the list goes on and on. So we do have a population out there that have not missed a paycheck. They might have been inconvenienced in some way, but their life is, as far as financially, has been pretty set. Now, there's a lot of groups that are not set on that mindset, that their business was shut down, or, you all have had to change how you actually show a house. How do you do that safely? How do you, especially if it's not a vacant home. If it's a new home and no one's in there, you might have an easier way to do that compared to if someone lives in that home, because typically they would be at work in the day, the kids would be at school, whatever that may be. And now you've had to totally regroup and come up with a different plan, and you've had to adapt. I think that as a whole, best I can tell, the realty market has really, you all have thrived in this environment if you have figured out a way to go forward. So I think that the ones that have just said, oh, well, we're stuck until further notice and someone's going to take care of us. I think especially the Davis County area has always had the mindset, if they wanted to do something, they tried to figure out a path and set forward. A lot of times they ask government to get out of their way. Either get out of my way or stay away from me, or don't touch me, or don't, and I think that is kind of why there's certain areas that have done better than others, that they've gone ahead and done whatever needed to do to stay safe, but go ahead about their business and take care of things the way they need to take care of it. So that's been probably the biggest obstacle that, there's definitely been winners and losers during the pandemic. There's definitely been areas that have thrived. There's been groups, there's been a lot of home businesses that have cropped up, that have provided a service or whatever it may be to do really well. As the housing situation has been, I'm really concerned whenever, if we had a moratorium on, the rentals, the expenses, utilities, and things like that, because at the end of the day, those are going to balloon payment to the point that I don't know if people can catch up at that point. And so that's probably one of the items that I've kind of, if you haven't been unemployed, if you still had your paycheck coming in, it would have been better, I think, if you would have kept up on your bills rather than a year later to get these monstrous payments. I know the utility companies in the area have been really concerned of the escalating costs that, because most of them, it's not a for-profit, our water companies, our electricity, things like that. It's not necessarily, what they're trying to do is make a huge profit. They're just trying to make sure they provide a service, and they can't do that free of charge naturally. So, that's probably the biggest thing of coming up with a new plan of how we deal with everyday life, not only during a pandemic, but, it's kind of like 9/11. I don't think that we will ever go back to the way we were the day before the pandemic started and the ripple effect from that. I just think that, the new normal, so to speak, I don't know what it's going to look like.
I agree. Is there anything else that you want to say to this group just to kind of wrap up today?
Well, I really appreciate the realtors. I think they do a really good job and a good service. You all are definitely what I consider customer service, and that's what I consider government should be, is customer service. That is the main thing. A lot of times if people give you a call that they are looking for something different, or they want to change as far as their housing or even locations for that matter, you all are the ones that kind of are a go-to to help people get the result that they want. And I think government is very similar to that. We're both in the customer service business, but I also think that we need to be honest with people whenever the things that we're working on, so that kind of like whenever you were asking about legislation, I want to lower your expectations of legislation this session, rather than saying, oh, of course, these are all great bills and they'll be fabulous. They may all be great bills, but at the end of the day, we're on limited time on how long we're here, as you will know. So we're going to have to make sure that we take care of the priorities, and the priorities definitely will be the budget and dealing with a lot of the unemployment issues. Everything associated with the pandemic is something that has kind of been put to the forefront.
Well, my name is Jim Gooch. I represent the 12th Legislative District, which encompasses all of Webster and McLean counties and portions of Hopkins and Davis County. And I have been in the legislature since 1995, so I'm starting my 27th year here. And I live in Providence with my wife, Alta. We have 3 grown children and several grandchildren. So that keeps us pretty busy. In my personal life, of course, I'm an insurance agent, and I'm also a licensed sales associate with Gibson Realty and Auction in Providence. So I do a little bit of real estate, and insurance when I'm not doing my day job of being this part-time job of being state representative. It takes most of my time, but I enjoy it. In Frankfort, I am chairman of the Natural Resources and Energy Committee. I've chaired that committee for about 20 years. I'm also on Information Technology Small Business Committee. I'm on the Veterans and Military Affairs Committee, and I'm on the Banking and Insurance Committee as well. So, then I'm also, for the first time, I'm on the Elections and Constitutional Amendments Committee. So, I'm on kind of an oversight board for Medicaid oversight. So that keeps me pretty busy here in session. As you know, we started back our second half of this short session. It was a 30-day session, and so we started back this week, and we'll go through pretty much all of February and the most of March. And we have to adjourn by, I think, March the 30th or 31st. So that's kind of what we're doing here in Frankfort. We're off to a pretty busy start, passed several bills. We will go in session today at 2 o'clock Eastern time, and we do have some items on the agenda today as well. So.
Representative, if we can talk a little bit about a bill that you have sponsored that is very important to our association and our industry, and that is House Bill 207. If you will just talk a little bit about that and just the importance of that, we would appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. House Bill 207 is a bill that I've sponsored, and as a matter of fact, it passed out of committee today, so it will move to the House floor. And what we're trying to do with that bill is that we really all realize that in order for our nation and our state and even our local areas to meet our energy needs, we need to be an all of the above state, which means we need to not restrict or limit anything. And it's going to take everything to actually meet the reliability and affordability that people demand. And what is happening in a lot of other states, some local governments are passing ordinances or whatever that may say no fossil fuels can be used in the new subdivision, or no no gas hot water heat or whatever, and no coal-fired generation or whatever it is. And what really happens is, if you're someone and they pass an ordinance like that, you're a homeowner, you'd like to sell your home, but all of a sudden, whoever buys it is going to have to put all new appliances in because your furnace is natural gas or whatever, and they don't allow that anymore. And those things can be really expensive to the average consumer, the average homeowner. And so we're just saying they can't do that. People have a right to use fuel sources that are available in their community already, and so that's the gist of what the bill does. We're not trying to tell you have to use certain things. If you want to use anything, and it's available, if you want to put solar panels on your roof, you can do that. If you want to put a windmill in your backyard, you can do that, or whatever. But you just can't allow jurisdictions to restrict and limit what consumers can use, and because what that does is it really raises the cost for everyone.
Another bill that has been proposed by Representative Fisher is House Bill 151. And that requires county clerks to be open for reviewing and obtaining copies of recorded instruments for 40 hours a week, unless they maintain a type of portal that allows the public to search for electronic copies of those recorded instruments. Is this something that would you care to kind of speak on that and kind of how you feel about House Bill 151?
That's one that I really haven't studied in depth. I understand what he's trying to do. Certainly people need to have access to their records, at the courthouse. So there needs to be certain hours that people know they can go and get that information. But with technology, there's so many things that you can actually get online. But not everyone is computer savvy, and I'm not the most computer savvy person either. And so it's not just enough, I guess, to say that, well, you can get that online if you're not someone that has access to the internet or a computer or whatever. So, people need to be able to get information that they need about their existing, businesses, homes, whatever.
One thing that I feel that this state is starting to really take action on are the challenges that a lot of our rural communities have when it comes to broadband access. I know there has been a test. They're trying to get individuals to kind of do a test on the speed of your internet services. Can you speak a little bit to the importance of our communities, especially our rural communities, in having proper broadband access?
Well, the thing is we live in a computer age, and technology is so important. And, businesses now can locate in areas as long as they have, really quality, high-speed internet and actually operate worldwide. And when we don't have that in our rural communities, then we're limiting our opportunities. And that's a real problem as far as, recruiting industries and businesses and that sort of thing. But it's also a problem, and I think we've really seen it with the pandemic, where, so many times now kids are forced to do virtual learning. And, I've had parents tell me they had to drive to the McDonald's parking lot where they could have Wi-Fi or whatever. And that's just not acceptable. We've got to have that available to our local citizens, and it hasn't been offered because in rural areas, the economies of scale are not there for the utilities to provide it. But we're going to have to make sure that it's our responsibility, just like we did in the 30s with electricity. Where we came up with some ways that everyone that wanted electricity could have it. We've got to do the same thing with the internet, and we're talking about broadband and high-speed internet, and it's just too important. We've seen a lot of our kids are falling behind because they've been out of school almost a year now, and it's just, we've really got to work on that. And I think it's going to mean maybe not necessarily looking to the people who provided some of the service in the past. We may have to look to others, and I'm kind of guess they're falling on deaf ears when they talk to me about not letting someone else get involved when they haven't provided the services themselves. And so that's what we have to do. I know that some of our local co-ops are wanting to help in some way provide that service, and I think a good fit for them to be able to do that. And so I'm very supportive of that initiative, where local utility services, whether they be co-ops, and it could even be municipal utilities, where they can offer those types of services to the people who live in their service areas, and just to make sure that people have broadband service.
That's great. Sir, we appreciate your time so much today, and look forward to when we can gather in person, and we can, we would love to host you all here and just kind of be able to have some nice, great casual conversations where we just kind of talk about how together we can make things better for our community. So we appreciate your service, appreciate your time, and if Owensboro can ever help you with anything, by all means, just reach out and we'll help you out.
Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Hi, I'm Representative Samara Heverin. I am from Litchfield, Grayson County. So I represent the 18th district, which includes all of Grayson County and part of Hardin County. I was elected in a special election in 2019. And when I was elected, I became the youngest female ever to serve in the Kentucky General Assembly. And I serve on 5 different committees. I'm on transportation, budget review for transportation, which is where the road plan comes through. So it's a great committee to be on for the 18th district. I serve on elections, constitutional amendments, and intergovernmental affairs, state government, and judiciary. And this past interim, I actually had the opportunity to serve on the PVA task force, which we were able to come up with some legislation that you all are interested in.
That's great. So if you will, just give us a little bit about your background up until this point.
Yeah, so I'm a proud Hilltopper. I graduated from WKU, and I ended up going to Washington, D.C. right after college. And I interned for Congressman Brett Guthrie. I worked on the Hill for Senator Rand Paul as a scheduler, which I had the opportunity to meet a lot of different realtors through that. And I always enjoyed when different advocacy groups would come up, but the realtors were always one of my favorites. To get to visit with them when they were in DC. And I had the vote to come back home to Kentucky and serve in a different capacity. So I started working for Kentucky State Treasurer Allison Gall. And I was her Director of Initiatives, where I worked with unclaimed property. I worked on transparency websites, financial literacy. It's a really a big issue with her, and honestly a big issue with me as well, something I'm very passionate about, and stable Kentucky. So I got a real taste for state government, and when the opportunity came for me to run and serve my home community, I took the opportunity and gave it a chance.
So you got into this in 2019.
Yeah.
We didn't know what was going to happen in March of 2020. So you had this idea of, being a public servant, and you are now a part of our Kentucky legislators, and COVID happens. So how differently has your first year gone in comparison to anything that you could have imagined?
It's actually, I'm pretty lucky. I have no expectations. I don't like to be disappointed. So I usually go into things with no expectations. And it was honestly a really good way to start my first year in 2020 with no expectations of, what was going to happen. And, honestly, until you're here in Frankfort, you don't really recognize the life of a legislator. And so it's been very interesting, especially I feel sorry for our newer members that just came in this class because they have no idea what a regular session is like with, constituents getting to come up and visit and lobbyists everywhere. And, it really makes Frankfort fun getting to see people from home. It really gives you a breath of fresh air. And so I really miss that aspect of that. But, I'm so thankful for the opportunity to serve. And, whenever you get elected, you don't know what circumstances you're going to be faced with, and it's part of the job.
So what has been, you were fortunate enough to be able to work around some of the top legislators in the country. So you got to see it from their point of view, but seeing it as a legislator, what is the thing that maybe is most different for you being in the driver's seat?
That was actually one of my hardest parts. I feel like my first year as a legislator, I was transitioning from being a staffer to being the person with the name on the door, so to speak. And, whenever you work for someone, you're well versed in how they feel about issues and, how they might feel about specific topics. And I remember someone asked me how I felt about a certain issue, and I was like, I don't know, I need to think about that. And, so just kind of formulating your opinions. And so it was kind of a transition for me is, really thinking through different things and coming up with opinions on everything under the sun, from bee pesticides to realtors, things that they're interested in, all the way to transportation. And that's probably one of the most surprising things too, is the amount of topics that we cover and that we've got to kind of be knowledgeable about.
If you want to speak to either House Bill 151 or House Bill 207, I would love to get kind of your opinions on either or both of those.
With House Bill 151, I absolutely understand wanting 40 hours a week. Honestly, I'm supportive of both of these in their current format. It's difficult to sometimes nail down how you feel about specific legislation because they change so much to the process, which can be very difficult. But currently, I don't have an issue with either of these pieces of legislation. Continue advocating. The only way that we know, kind of what's going on in your field is by advocating and reaching out to us and building relationships. And while we cover a lot of different issues, we're not all geniuses in each of the issues and are experts. And so it's so important. I feel like I'm very comfortable if there's an issue with the realtors, I can text my realtor friends and say, hey, what do you all think about this? And it's so important to have those relationships. So continue to advocate and encourage people to do the same.
Scott Lewis. I represent Ohio County, all of Ohio County, and the east part of Davis County. I'm starting my second term here, which would be my third year. I'm a retired school superintendent, was a basketball coach and teacher before that. I was head women's basketball coach at Kentucky Wesleyan College for a while. Before that, I was a former state trooper. So I've had a variety of different experiences. I've owned businesses. We opened Beef O'Brady's in Beaver Dam 2 years ago, which I know you are familiar with that in Owensboro. But that's been an interesting time to own a restaurant right now. But that's discussion for a later time, I think. But I am enjoying my time in the legislature, and I've been a public servant my whole life, and I enjoy trying to help people. So. Also, I'm a real estate investor. I've owned rental property as far back as I can remember. Both my mother and father were realtors, so I have a commitment there. I think to always keep that in mind in any legislation that comes across. So I think you all will find that I'll be friendly to your all's profession.
You know, you're listing all of these things that you've done, and I think, my goodness, what a unique perspective that you have in general, but especially right now, going through what we're going through. I didn't realize you had been a state trooper. I thought all that disciplinary action came from your days as an educator. So you bring a unique perspective to kind of what we're all going through right now.
Well, I do, and I think that's helped me up here. I do have a varied background, and I think that's helped up here on issues that maybe to help see things a different way sometimes. And I think that's what you need in a legislative body, is difference of opinions and different ways of thinking how to solve issues. So I think it's a plus, and I try to use all the experience that I've gained over the years and put it to good use.
You know, you all have a lot going on, and as you know, we have certain priorities that take precedent for us as far as when it comes to being able to truly defend our property owner rights and other things that are relevant to the real estate profession. And we have a few House bills that I'd like to get your opinion on. One of those is House Bill 207, which is sponsored by Representative Gooch, of course. So we've spoken with him about this, and that is basically prohibiting a local government entity from taking any legislative or executive action that has the purpose or effect of impairing a consumer's ability to use a utility service of their choosing. So, wondering if you can speak a little bit to kind of what your thoughts are on House Bill 207.
Yeah, I've read that bill, and actually have read some of the bills that are important to you all. But I would be supportive of that bill. I think it's a fair bill, and it'll be a yes vote for me on the House floor.
That's great. I'm going to switch gears with you a little bit, because I think you do have a unique perspective. And as you would say, a real estate investor, you see the same things and issues that we're fighting for as well. So if you could just, briefly speak on kind of your experience as a property owner to the importance of fighting for private property rights.
Well, I think it's more and more important, and most of us that have been in real estate and rent properties out, residential, commercial, whatever, it's a different time that we live in back than when I started investing in property. So, things we took for granted back then was people would move out and maybe wouldn't trash your property or damage it. Well, we're seeing more and more of that. So I think that's why you're seeing some legislation come about that actually gives the owners more, not more rights, but gives us some rights where we've not had in the past. And I think it's very important for people that invest in real estate to protect what they have invested in. So again, I think that's another one of the bills, and obviously I'd be supportive of that also.
Yeah, that's great, and that is something that's definitely on our priority list as well. There's another bill in the House that is House Bill 151, sponsored by Representative Fisher, that basically requires county clerks to be open for reviewing or obtaining copies of recorded instruments for 40 hours a week, unless they maintain a public or a portal, that allows the public to search for electronic copies of recorded instruments. I don't know if you've had an opportunity to look at House Bill 151. If you have, we'd love to know your thoughts on that.
Well, I think it's important for any public office that you have access to it. And, that's our taxpayer money that's getting used to benefit, the people that pay the taxes. So I don't think 40 hours a week is unreasonable at all. As long as it didn't count him, well, if there's a holiday that week or something that effect. But I think that's more than a reasonable bill. Appreciate the opportunity to be on here with you all, and I value your profession and have a lot of background and interest in real estate and realtors and so forth, and I can't say that I've ever worked with a realtor that I didn't like. So a bunch of good people and work hard for their living, and I just want you all to know that I appreciate you.
Thank you to each of our legislators for taking the time to address our members. We look forward to working with you this year. For more information on RPAC, check out the KYR website or shoot me an email. I'd love to talk with you about the mission and the efforts of our association. We are anxiously awaiting a time when we can safely gather together with our legislators in person. But until then, our Governmental Affairs Committee will keep you updated on what's going on. Thank you guys for watching.